Daniel, at least kind of give us an idea what happened to this individual, because I think, you know, a lot of people need to know who's responsible for just allowing her murder to happen.
Yeah. So this is about a woman named Shauna Grice in the UK. She's a 19-year-old. She had an ex-boyfriend who was stalking her severely, you know, had a stolen copy of her house key, would peer into her window while she was sleeping, would tail her when she was driving around or using public transit or walking. And where this story starts, in terms of why we're covering this, is she went to the police and she said, "This guy is stalking me. It's an issue. Can you do something about it?" And the police, instead of helping get a restraining order, taking her story seriously, fined her for annoying them. And, you know, because no one likes to be told, I guess, by a woman that she's being stalked. We couldn't put the effort into it. So they didn't. They fined her. They treated her like a criminal for trying to report this guy. And he slit her throat, the guy, not the police. Can never tell these days. Slit her throat, lit her bedroom on fire. And so we're going to go, the two officers that were supposed to be handling that case had retired since they actually may face disciplinary action. Remember, this is not the U.S., police in the UK are actually held in line quite a bit. So I'm going to kind of get into a little bit about that. Obviously the police have come out and said, "We're terribly sorry we let this person get murdered," and fined her for trying to get us to stop it. We're, you know, our bad. And of course the parents are not that happy about it. They don't think that kind of they should get any thanks or anything, because, you know, they let someone kill their daughter because they didn't take it seriously. Now, what I think is interesting about this is there's a lot of things that caught my eye in this story. First is obviously the breakdown of the police structure, but since it's the UK, it was also very interesting that the police seemed more apologetic about this case than I've seen police when their officers shoot up a family. When police in America kill an entire family, kill someone that doesn't have a gun, all we get is, "Wasn't our fault, we followed the rules, everything's good, don't worry about it. We did everything, we were 5% scared, so we took out the family, we followed doctrine, we have no more comment, we have pending litigation," and then maybe we'll see a lawsuit and a settlement that comes after it. Whereas here, at least the police are like, "Oh, we really screwed up, we might put these guys under discipline, we're going to investigate it, and we're going to reform." I'm not sure how much of that is going to actually pan out in the end. Mm-hmm. But it's just kind of interesting that how when police agencies fuck up, the difference and just their wording. And because in this, imagine if this happened in the U.S., this happened in a low-income area, they would have never, no one would even cared to begin with, because it's just so common for this kind of thing to happen, for police to do nothing about it. Probably would have not even gotten covered like it would in the UK. Because in the UK, if a police officer kills someone, the entire country protests, because it's so rare, because they never kill anyone. So I just thought it was an interesting juxtaposition on all these different points.
So here's the question, though, is if it happened in this way in the U.S., do you think it's likely that the police department would be as apologetic?
I don't think they would say anything. I don't think anyone would care.
Well, there's a lot of look. There's a lot of concerns about our police department here in the United States. I mean, there's a lot of corruption. There's a lot of lack of accountability. I'm surprised that this happened in London. I mean, or Britain, to be more precise.
I think it was in Brighton specifically.
Yeah. All right, thank you for the correction on that one. But I think it's very important that when we look at stories like this, we have to really hold all police agencies accountable. They're designed to protect and serve. And when a citizen makes a complaint, especially about a hostile stalker or somebody who's trying to physically hurt them, it is their job to make sure that that said individual is protected, and that whoever's going to cause any harm is held accountable, or at least there are laws put in place to make sure that that person is away from that individual, the victim. But it's like, but in regards to being apologetic, if something like this happened here in the United States, I mean, it really depends on the region too. Like
if it's a wealthy white girl that's targeted, we know it would get covered. If it's a poor black girl or Hispanic or any other minority, we know it wouldn't. Another thing that I want to get into this is that, how do I put this? Police. Actually, someone take over, man.
Yeah. So I have a point that I want to make on this, and it's less that, oh, well, if it was a wealthy white lady, they would respond to it, and if it was a poor minority, you wouldn't hear anything about it. I think it goes deeper than that. The creation of the police in any country, the United States as well, the creation of the police comes after there are major protests against a major capital owner, someone who owns a factory or a means of production. Prior to institutionalized, government-controlled, state-controlled police departments, a lot of companies with large-scale industries would hire their own, basically, sort of militia group. Think the Pinkertons, right? We didn't have police departments early on in this country. We didn't have police departments early on in Western society. It's only after you have large institutions that generate profit and employ people that give poor conditions to the people that they're employing, and the employees stand up and say, this isn't right. Now that company needs to get those workers in line. When they say they're here to protect and to serve, who are they here to protect and serve? Police departments are here to protect and serve capital owners who own and operate the means of production. That's why they were created. That's what they're here for. And so when an individual says, I have a credible threat against my life, I have this stalker, please help me, police, you're here to protect and serve me, they're saying, well, you don't really pay a whole lot of my bills. I'm here to really do the bidding of, the state and of the various institutions and capital producers that we protect. You're not one of those, so super low priority, too bad for you. And then something like this happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're at this point in history where this kind of stuff happens. It's just so interesting where we're at. I mean, exactly what Paul said. It goes into even the term protect and serve that we see on every single squad car in the U.S. It's not a legal thing. It's a slogan. It's a catchphrase. It's branding. It's marketing. And in the UK, even though their police are better, they don't shoot people to death because they're 5% scared, and they don't just shoot people because they're scared, and they don't walk up to people with their guns drawn. It still happens. This is a systemic thing. Just like Paul said, it breaks down in such a way that they're not really there. The police aren't there to protect and serve. They're there to protect and serve capital.
Yeah. And it's very tragic because, unfortunately, an innocent life was lost, and I guess we got to learn from the mistakes. But I mean, how often does this happen, and how often is this talked about?
And to go into a little more into that macro talk, how many police have stopped school shooters? And I want to say that there are more police now who have hidden outside of schools while shootings have happened because they're terrified for their own lives than have actually stopped shootings. So I
think the number of police who have actively stopped mass shootings is a grand total of zero.
It's zero.
Yeah.
But the number of children that have been arrested and put into juvenile detention that are in school is about 1 million.
Yeah. And see, there must be reform. There must be accountability. But I mean, again, the only way we're going to do it is if citizens themselves step up and demand their elected officials to take action too. But that's
you got to take over the government. You have to win before you can win. Then you can win.
Absolutely.
Hey, did you like that video? Give us a sub. Hit the bell for notification. You know how YouTube is. Check us out on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and of course, go to hardlensmedia.com. We'll see you next video.